Well, hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to make Rum Baba. These are lovely little yeasted buns basically, which are then infused with a rum syrup and can be served with things like strawberries and cream or however you want. And you can also use other alcohols. You can use limoncello and make a lemon version if you want to, or you could make a non-alcoholic version, flavouring the syrup however you wanted to. But these are going to be flavoured with rum. Some people put some other flavourings into the buns, the yeasted buns, which I don't think is necessary. I think we want to enjoy the flavour of the rum. So it's going to take quite a while because we're going to make our dough and then allow it to proof for about 3 hours before we work with it. It's a very wet and sticky dough. And then we have to make our syrup and allow that to cool down to 50 degrees Celsius, 122 Fahrenheit, for the best absorption rate into the buns when we dip the buns in them. So I'm going to do the ingredients in two parts. I'll do the ingredients for the yeasted buns, and then I'll do the ingredients for the syrup and the decoration to go on the top. So I'll start off with the ingredients for the Rum Baba buns. And for this, I have 200 grams, which is 1 1/3 cups of a very strong, I'm using a Canadian bread flour, which is 15% protein, but a strong white bread flour of 11% protein will work perfectly fine, I think. And I have, so that's 200 grams. And then I have 4 medium eggs, which out of their shell also weigh just over 200 grams. I have 67 grams, a quarter of a cup plus 2 teaspoons of soft unsalted butter. And here I have 3 grams, which is 1 teaspoon of dried yeast. 12 grams, 1 tablespoon of caster sugar, and 3 grams, half a teaspoon of salt. And that's all the ingredients we're going to use for the buns. I'll go on to the ingredients for the syrup and the decoration, and then we'll make the dough. And for the syrup, I have 200 grams, which is 1 cup of caster sugar, 480 millilitres, 2 cups of water, and 90 millilitres, 6 tablespoons of rum. And then I'm going to do some whipped cream with some strawberries to go with the Rum Baba. So I'm going to use 300 millilitres, which is 1 1/4 cups of double cream or heavy cream, and 300 grams, which is 10.5 ounces of strawberries, which I have hulled. And then I'm going to put into that 25 grams of caster sugar, which is 2 tablespoons, and I'll do that straight away. So I'll just put the sugar in and give that a stir around to get the strawberries coated in that, and then I'm just going to set those to one side and leave the sugar to extract the juices from the strawberries to make a nice syrup, so that when we serve the strawberries and the cream, they're nice and syrupy and juicy. So to make the dough, I'm going to use my stand mixer, but with my alternative bowl and attachments. You could use a KitchenAid or a Bosch or a Kenwood, and you can use the paddle to start with, and then you can work onto the dough hook later on. I'm going to use these whisks, and then I'm going to use my little cookie whisks for mine, and we're going to mix this dough for quite a long time. So I'll start off by putting my flour in, and then I'll add in my yeast. So I'm just going to give those a mix on a low speed just to get those mixed together. And that's good enough like that. So then I'm going to add in my eggs, and I'm going to add them in one at a time. And these eggs are cold. I've actually had them refrigerated. I'm going to mix each egg and get it incorporated, and then add the next one and the next one and the next one until they're fully incorporated. And I've got those mixed together, and I'm going to add in my sugar, and I'm going to mix that until that's fully incorporated. And with the sugar incorporated for a minute or so, I'm going to add my salt in as well and mix that. And I'm going to then mix that for a good 5 minutes. And I will scrape down the bowl because the dough will become very tough and will cling to my the sides of my bowl in the centre. I'll scrape that down as I'm mixing. And so I have mixed that the eggs together with the sugar and the salt and the flour and the yeast now for about 10 minutes, and I've changed to my little cookie paddles, and this is the stage where you would change if you're using something like a KitchenAid to your dough hook. And I'm going to add in my butter, a couple of pieces at a time, just like that, and I'm going to mix this again until those two pieces of butter are fully incorporated. And then once they're fully incorporated, I will add more and continue to do that, which will take about 10 minutes, mixing the whole time until I have a smooth and very sticky dough. So I've incorporated my butter fully into that dough there, and that's taken about 10 minutes, and it's now a very stretchy and very sticky dough. So I'm going to put that into a greased bowl, a lightly greased bowl. And with the dough in a greased bowl, I'm going to cover that with plastic wrap. And I'm going to put that into a warm place for it to proof for 3 hours. And it's going to proof, and it's going to almost come up to the top of that bowl. It may even come up to the top of the bowl. And after 3 hours, I will come back and we will divide the dough into 8 pieces to go into these little dariole moulds. Now, if you don't have dariole moulds, which make perfect rum baba, you can do them in a muffin tin, but you would probably get 10 to 12 rather than 8 because the muffin tin have a different capacity. So it's now been about 3 hours, and I have allowed my dough to rise, and it's risen very, very well. It's more than filled the bowl. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my plastic wrap off. And I lightly greased this plastic wrap so it's coming off quite easily. Like that. I save that. And then with a wet hand I'm going to deflate the dough. So I'm just going to dip my hand in some water and scrape around the side of the bowl to start with. Just like that. And then I need to put that into my little dariole moulds which I have greased, and I need to put between 50 and 58 grams. 58 grams is 1 ounce. So I'm going to, keep my hand wet. I'm going to pinch an amount of the dough and drop it into the mould, and I'll drop a little bit more in. And that's good, that's 55. And do the same with the remainder. And there I have my 8 dariole moulds filled, and as I said, you can use muffin tins and you'd use slightly less dough in each one. Now I'm going to cover those with the same piece of plastic wrap. I'm going to leave those until the dough has risen just to the top of the dariole moulds. And as that happens, I preheat my oven to 180 degrees Celsius, 160 Celsius with a fan, and I'll be ready to bake these. So I'll come back and show you these once they've risen up and my oven is preheated. So my dough has now just about risen to the top of each of the cups. A couple of them are just below the top, and I have my oven preheated. So I'm going to put these into the oven, and I'm going to bake them for 20 to 25 minutes. And they should rise up quite nicely and brown on the top. And then I will take them out of the oven and leave them in the tins for 5 minutes. Then I'll transfer them to a wire rack and allow them to cool down, and I'll come back and show you what they look like. So to make the syrup for the rum bubbas, I'm going to put my water into a pan, and I'm going to add in my 200 grams of sugar, and then I'm going to put that onto the heat, and I'm going to stir it until the sugar dissolves and the water starts to boil. Then I'm going to boil it for 1 minute and then turn the heat off. Then I'll come back and show you the sugar syrup, and we'll add the rum. You don't need to watch this boil, basically. It's simply going to go on the heat and boil. So my sugar syrup has now boiled for a minute, and I'm going to pour in my rum. I'm just going to stir that around, and then I'm going to set that aside until I need it. And when I need it, the temperature of the liquid needs to be 50 degrees Celsius, 122 Fahrenheit. That will be the optimum temperature for soaking the Rum Baba buns. So I have here 7 of the buns, and I actually baked these yesterday because it's best, if you can, to leave them for several hours or even overnight so that they really do dry out nicely. That way they will absorb more of the syrup. So the ones that I've put in the oven are still baking, and I will use those later on in the week and make some more. But for the time being, I'll use these 7 that I have here, and I'm going to soak them in my syrup, which has now cooled down to 50 degrees. But it's still going to be very hot to touch, so I'm going to be careful how I do it. And I'm going to put them in, and then I'm going to just turn them around and I'm going to soak each one for about a minute. Now you could make more syrup. I've only made this amount because I don't want to waste it. And then I'm just going to squeeze it like that. And place it on a rack. And I'm going to soak all of them. And as they're resting like that on a rack so that they can drain off any excess syrup, I'm going to whip my cream. And now I'm going to whip my double cream so that I can pipe some of that onto the rum babas. So I'm just going to whisk that until it's fairly thick. So that's quite thick, but I haven't whisked it too far. It only took 30 seconds or so. So I'm going to put that into a piping bag just for ease. And then I've taken 4 of my rum babas because I'm doing these to take round to my niece. And I will do the others later. So what I've done is I've just sliced them down the length. You don't have to. And I put some of my macerated strawberries into them like that. And I'm simply going to pipe some cream into them as well, like that. and the rest of the cream will be for the other ones. And then I'm going to take just a couple more strawberry pieces and put those on the top. So there are the 4 that I've done, and I'm not going to taste those because I'm going to take them round to my niece, but they look very good. And I have had a taste of one of the buns without the cream and the strawberries, and it has a lovely flavour of that rum syrup, and nice and moist and sort of quite cakey because of the moisture in it. Very, very good indeed. So this is not a particularly difficult recipe, but it's not easy either, and you just have to be patient with it. And as I mentioned, if you can make the buns the day in advance, so much the better, because then they will absorb the syrup that much easier and they'll absorb more of it. So that's going to be it for this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there'll be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to a link for the recipe, and I'll put a link below the video as well. And I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.